Welcome to the Restoration Room, a space designed for rebuilding, for healing, and finding your way back to wholeness. Here, we get real about mental health, spiritual recovery, and the wounds left behind by life, toxic church culture, or personal brokenness.
Welcome back to the Restoration Room, where grace is greater than grind and healing is greater than performance. This week, we're stepping into a conversation that the church has not handled very well. Mental health. Yeah, mental health. And I'm here to tell you, mental health issues, they're not sin. I promise you they're not. For far too long, depression, anxiety, and other struggles of the mind have been dismissed as a lack of faith or even misdiagnosed as pure spiritual battle. AKA, get that devil off your back. But God cares about the whole body, our mind, and our spirit. To help us break the stigma and speak some truth into this dark area, I'm being joined tonight by my big sis, Stacia Wilkins. Stacia brings both wisdom and lived experience to this conversation, offering insight into the intersection of faith and therapy. Together, we'll explore what it looks like to invite God into our mental health journey, while also embracing the tools and support he provides through community and counseling. 3 John 1 and 2 reminds us that God wants us to prosper and to be in good health, just like our soul prospers. And guess what? That includes your mental and emotional health. So let's get real. Let's get honest. Step on into the Restoration Room. Sit down, breathe in, breathe out, and let's get to work. This is the Restoration Room. See you in a minute.
So take a seat, take a breath and lean in, because restoration starts right here in the Restoration Room. Starts right here in the Restoration Room.
Welcome back to the Restoration Room. I am so excited today. I have my big sis, the Dr. Stacia Wilkins, here with me today. She's my first guest on this podcast, and I'm so excited that she's consented to come and share with me about mental health. Our topic today is mental health is not a sin. We want to talk today about faith, therapy, and the stigma in the church. A few weeks ago, I sat in a convocation and my big sis threw out some crazy points, some crazy things talking about mental health in the church and how it actually has a big stigma behind it. So I brought her on today so that we can discuss really what that looks like and discuss how we as people can overcome the stigma of mental health in the church. So I bring to you my big sis, Dr. Stacia Wilkins. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited to have you tonight with us on this podcast. So let's start off. Tell the people who you are.
So I am a woman who loves the Lord. That's who I am at the end of the day. However, I work as I like to refer to myself as a facilitator of healing who mobilizes leaders to implement strategies that prevent burnout while reigniting their vision and their purpose. I am a licensed professional counselor. I have been in the mental health field for over 20 years. I own my own private practice, SKW Counseling and Consulting, where I do carry my own caseload, working with leaders, different types of leaders, as well as going into organizations and providing consultation services to teams and to leaders as well. Um, I am I serve as an elder at my church and the grief ministry lead, and I am also the director of counselor education and associate professor at Widener University. So I'm a bit busy. I'm a woman who wears a lot of hats, but at the end of the day, all titles and degrees put down, I'm a woman who absolutely loves the Lord.
And I'm so excited about it. I'm grateful that even though you have a very busy schedule and you're doing a lot and making impacts everywhere, you have consented to come and talk to us today about
Oh,
mental health in
anything
the
for my
church.
bro.
I
Yes,
appreciate you
I'm
so
honored
much.
to be here. Absolutely.
Thank you. So let's dig in. Let's really dig in.
Sure.
The restoration room is really about healing and essentially restoring ourselves, not about performance, not about any kind of performance measurements that we have in life, right? So we
Mhm.
come in this room to essentially breathe in and let our stress out and to talk about everything that is really plaguing us throughout the day. So let's dig in and talk about the myth behind mental health in the church. Tell me your take on it. Where are you? Where's your mind at when it comes to that?
I think just starting with stigma in general, right? When we think about stigma, it really has to do with a negative attitude or negative belief, about something that is different from who we are and what we're used to. So I think it can start there, when a difference is identified with the stigma, then we attach a negative meaning to it because we don't really understand it.
Yeah,
And then it really becomes, this kind of us versus them, mentality. We can act a bit superior, and then there's that internalized shame that comes in. But at the very core of that is really a fear, a misunderstanding. If we don't understand something, we tend to fear it. And a lot of times we don't understand something because we are
yeah,
misinformed, right? So
absolutely.
I think that's where the stigma starts. It's just that we notice a difference um, in ourselves or in someone else. And I think historically within the church, because of this difference, because of mental health, or rather, I should say, mental illness
Mm,
presenting itself in our Christian circles, that's different from what we understand. That's different from how we're supposed to act in the church, right? So then it becomes demonized because I don't know how to deal with this, or this looks rather demonic, So we have
yeah,
those
yeah.
historical misrepresentations. And then we're like, well, if you had more faith, or if you just prayed more, Jesus is really all you need. We have that coming in to kind of support this stigma even more, that I'm not a good Christian. I'm not
Hmm.
doing everything that I need to do if I'm not praying more, if I'm not reading the word more, if I'm not attending church 7 times a week, right? And then we have what we call in mental health circles spiritual bypassing,
Mm,
and that's really all about let's not even deal with the emotional aspect of what you're
yeah,
dealing with. Let's not even talk about that. We gotta lean on our faith, to get through, and that is the end all be all. But what that does is it leaves problems, really unaddressed. So I just think historically, you know there's been this misrepresentation. There's been the church voice based off of what should be and what we feel the word says, and then there's this dishonoring of our emotional makeup because we are
Yeah,
very much emotional beings. And I think that has really fed into the stigma of the church. But in order to really abolish, stigma, you got to have some sort of education about what that difference is. And
right.
then you also need contact with it to kind of, tear down those defenses and to tear down that fear. If we don't have contact and if we don't have education, there will always be stigma.
Yeah, it's very true. I remember when I first started dealing with depression in the church, I didn't really know what it was. I had no kind of exposure to it. And it was exactly what you said. Oh, just pray, just
Hmm.
keep praying. You got to fast more, you got to seek God's face more.
Yeah.
And there was this saying, God's people or God's men are not depressed. If you have God's
Hmm.
anointing, it's supposed to break the yoke. It's supposed to destroy the chains. It's supposed to make sure that you're not depressed. And I'm like, yeah, I hear you saying all this stuff, but like, I still feel this. Like, I still feel this thing. And so for so long, I walked around believing and claiming that I was not something that I really was.
Wow.
And so it got to the point where I literally had to tell my bishop, sit me down because I don't want to
Hmm.
touch a microphone. I don't want to do
Hmm.
anything. I don't want to sing another song because I am going through something and I can't serve and do this at the same time.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to someone that feels like that on the regular basis in the church?
Number one, unplug.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
have you have to unplug. Unplug to reassess
Mm,
because when we look at something like depression, it is or just mental illness in general, it's almost looked at like leprous. Like
yeah, yeah.
I can't lead, I can't do this, I can't do that and have low mood, right? I
Right. Yeah, yeah.
can't I can't preach and feel anxious.
Yeah.
Where do we get that from? Both things can be true at the same time. So I think unplugging to see, okay, what's really going on with me?
Mm,
What's really happening with me? Taking that time to actually lean into you because a lot of times as leaders, we don't do that. We
yeah.
are dehumanized and then we
Yeah.
dehumanize ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So, what you were saying in terms of I had to ask my bishop to sit me down because you knew something was happening with you. You
hmm
knew something was going on that wasn't you. It didn't
Yeah.
feel right. It didn't feel
Right.
normal, right? So just unplugging and taking that time to look inward and to be honest with yourself about what's
Absolutely.
really going on and not getting into I think also stepping out of that space of performance
Oh
because
yeah.
performance is exhausting.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. You you are right down my alley tonight. Like it
Oh my
it really, really
goodness.
is.
It
And
is.
it even comes with wearing masks. Like the
Yes.
amount of masks that I figured out that I was wearing was ridiculous. I mean, when I
Yeah.
finally actually sat down and I
Hmm.
got a therapist that actually worked for me. Small plug, every therapist is not your therapist. So don't think because one
True.
therapy session does not work, that none of them are ever going to work. You got to keep
Absolutely.
going. It's
You got
just
to
like
shop
dating.
around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So when I first started going to therapy and I started realizing, she started uncovering all this stuff, and I was like, "Where did that come from? Where did that come from?" She was like, "That's just another mask. That's just another mask." And as I started really addressing all of these masks that we call wearing many hats, I started realizing how tired I was. And that was for me, that was where my mind was literally saying, I cannot continue living all of
Yeah.
these lives at one time.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
really crazy. Like I realized that I was doing so many different things and trying to be so many different things to people that it was
Yeah,
literally exhausting me.
I
It
believe
was
it.
exhausting me. And it was hard to turn to someone in the church to be able to really understand what was going on. And
Hmm.
I think me personally, I'm a little biased. Being a preacher, I think that I personally don't want to have a Christian therapist because I've had bad experiences. So I got a
Understandable.
non-Christian therapist,
I hear that a
and
lot.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was like one of the
Yeah.
best decisions I ever made. It's like you're giving me Christian therapists, they just want to stuff the word down your throat, right? And that's good. But it was for me, it was
Sometimes,
like,
yeah.
I know all that. It's not working. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So I think that it gives you a different perspective, right, than what
Hmm.
things really are. So let's talk about a little bit about dealing with anxiety in the church. What are your thoughts about that?
I think anxiety is very much physiological
Mm,
and cognitive.
mm,
And I think where we have gone wrong is that we have thought anxiety is all cognitive. If I
mm,
can not catastrophize, if I can, think better thoughts, then I'd be fine. But anxiety is really all about a perceived threat. However, we see something is threatening our safety. And what happens is when we feel that threat, when that threat is not dealt with, it gets locked in the body
mm,
and then it acts out in forms of panic attacks,
mm,
or blacking out. And it's not just about worrying too much. you know Anxiety is really about a persistent fear that is constantly there and is
wow.
constantly present. It can't necessarily be turned off. We really have to do things to reset our nervous system.
Mm.
Things like singing. My AirPods are acting a hot mess today. Uh, things like singing, things like uh, humming, things like laughing to kind of help to reset what we call our vagus nerve,
Mm.
because that is the longest nerve in our body that runs from our brain through our heart.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and when that nerve is not, set in a special place, then we experience all this anxiety. So then we have to do things to complete our stress cycles in order
Mm.
to not experience anxiety, So it's not always a bad thing, even though the word says be anxious for nothing, right?
Mm.
Don't allow anxiety to consume you,
Yeah.
right? And be dictatorial in how you proceed with life. But it is something that is present.
Absolutely. I think that I was talking to my therapist about my anxiety recently. My
Hmm.
company was bought out, and being in a management role, it was really, really tough because you almost
Yeah.
have to like prove that you are worth keeping when you're in a situation like that, right? So
Hmm.
for me, walking into that space, and thank God I still have a job, but walking
Yeah.
into a space where you have to learn everything all over again.
Hmm.
You know the ins and outs of your industry, but you have to relearn systems, you have to relearn company, you have to
Sure.
relearn culture. I found myself uh, as soon as I walked through the door and sat down at my desk, my legs started shaking uncontrollably. And so my therapist was telling me, you have to find all different kinds of like breathing methods and ways to essentially what you said, reset yourself. But I
Hmm.
like one thing that you said that anxiety, what did you say? It's anxiety is the presence of fear.
Yeah. It's a persistent fear.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never even considered and even thought about that. Um,
Hmm.
Anxiety, and it even exists not just in our daily lives, but it exists in the church. I
Oh,
remember
absolutely.
going to church when I was younger and being so anxious because
Mm.
I felt like I was in sin and I felt like I was not perfect, or I felt
Mm.
like, we have the scripture, oh, it tells us that we do have to have clean hands and a pure heart. But I
Sure.
believe that that's what God does for us.
Hmm.
That's where he brings us into a place of having of having cleanliness. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So when you walk into his presence, he doesn't expect you to be perfect. But
Mm-hmm.
growing up in an old school holiness church, they expected you to
Hmm.
be perfect,
Absolutely, all day.
especially them old mothers. You walk in, you're like, I smell sin.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh. That's enough to
Exactly.
cause anxiety.
Isn't it though?
I just I just came from somewhere that I knew I shouldn't have been, and I'm here in church
Exactly.
just trying to get my life together, and now I have to
Yeah.
worry about somebody walking up to me talking about they smell sin. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Like
like
that
forget
type of
God. You
thing.
don't want to be found out by the mothers.
Exactly. And don't let a prophet come in. Oh my gosh, it was
Okay.
even worse. I just
Yes.
didn't go to church. Those were just days that I just didn't go. Like, I knew that my sin was going to be put on blast. But I realized that those things worked for some people and those methods worked
Mm,
for some people. And as much anxiety as I had, I
mhm.
realized that even in moments where the prophet was at work or my pastor was in prophetic mode, God never like put me on blast.
Mm, mm.
That's not to say that he doesn't do that for people, right? Because sometimes
Sure.
they just, people
Gotta
just got to get
expose
called
sometimes.
out.
Yeah,
You playing too many games, right?
absolutely.
God's like, enough is
Hmm.
enough.
Like I gave
But
you enough
like, I
time.
never exactly, but like, God showed me a more excellent way
Mm,
when it came to being in church.
mhm.
Because at the end of the day, my relationship is not with the prophet. My relationship is not with the mother of the church. My
That's
relationship
good.
is not with my pastor. My
Hmm.
relationship is with the Almighty. And
Yes.
when I realized that, my anxiety surrounding church went away completely. Because at the end of the day, if God tells you what I'm dealing with, thank you. That means you're supposed to be praying for me. That means that
Mm,
he trusts you, this person, enough to
right.
actually handle my sin,
Yes. Come
handle
on.
my issues, handle all the stuff that I'm dealing with. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he cares enough about my mind, my body,
Mm,
and my spirit to give you this concern to say that I'm not in this by myself.
absolutely. That's love.
And I think, yeah, absolutely, it's like the purest form of it.
Yeah.
It really, really
Yeah.
is. It's the
Yeah.
purest form of it. I think that we take, oh, he chastises those whom he loves. Like that's straight toxicity in the way
Mhm.
that it's been used in the church
Yeah.
to say
Yeah.
that, open correction and all of these things, like that video that went viral a few weeks ago of the
Hmm.
lady who didn't get the proper hug or something like that. Like
Yeah.
that's toxic leadership. And we talked about that last week in our podcast. Toxic leadership
Hmm.
produces this kind of anxiety in the church,
Sure.
and it pushes people away.
It
It really
does.
does.
It does.
It really pushes people away. So what would
You
you say? Go ahead.
you said something that I really connected with in terms of, not having to be perfect for God, right? Because
Hmm.
I remember when I first got saved when I was 12.
Hmm.
And I remember that night I said to God, I'm going to be perfect.
Oh
I'm going to
yeah.
do everything that I'm supposed to do at 12. Where in the world did I
Hmm.
get that from, right? But I just
Right.
wanted to do everything right. And I realized when I was doing things wrong, I would be scared to come to
Hmm.
God because I
Yeah.
thought that, you know, he would punish me.
Right.
And whereas yes, I was chasing at times, but he showed mercy. And I think what's important, especially in the church, is that, you know, our our love for God and his love for us in the midst of mental health issues is that he created us human. He created us. His hand is on us. He loves us exactly how we are. And
Hmm.
we don't have to perform for him because when we perform, you think about a performance, those people who are on stage, they don't have a relationship with their audience.
Right.
They want their
Absolutely.
audience to see them in the way that they want to show who they are,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
who they actually are. And God
Hmm.
is like, listen, I want you to strip before me. You're going to come in my presence, be completely stripped. I want to see it all.
Absolutely. I
You
want to see
know,
it all. He
I
sees
want
it
to see it
anyway.
all. He does. He
It's crazy.
does.
Like we have this kind of relationship, like this hide and seek relationship that Adam had, right? Adam, when
Mm,
he sinned, he tried to hide himself from God. God
yeah.
already knew. God already
Mhm.
knew what happened. God already saw what happened, and God already
Mhm.
knew what he was naked. But yet Adam tried to
Absolutely.
clothe himself, right? And so
Yeah.
we do the same thing. We do the same thing in his presence because we have this stigma that if we come before God naked, he's going to strike us down.
Yeah. But you know what I also think that's about too, Pastor Ryan? We don't know who we are naked.
Mm, yeah.
If we really knew who we were naked and we were able to still embrace that, then
Hmm.
maybe we wouldn't be so quick to hide.
Yeah, that's true too. Very
Yeah.
true. I'll never forget. There were some struggles that I was dealing with in the church. Young preacher dealing with my sexual proclivities.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, God, I need you to take this out of me. I need you to fix this thing. I
Hmm.
need you to deal with this because I don't understand. And I know you're
I
not going
get
to,
it.
it was
Yeah.
all of that, right? And then finally the Lord said to me, who are you?
Mm.
And I said, excuse me, because I'm about to preach. And right now,
Right.
that part from me, I never knew you is not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work. So what are we talking about here?
Right. Right. I
I'm
need you to
literally
clarify.
in this pulpit and I need you to tell me what you mean by this. And he just said, who are you?
Mm.
And I answered him and I said, I'm Brian. And he
Mm.
said, this thorn in your flesh will not last always.
Wow.
But remember who you are and who
Mm-hmm.
I created you to be.
That's powerful.
And when I heard that, this overwhelming feeling of love and grace
Mm.
covered, like it just washed over me, and I had
Mm-hmm.
never felt like that before. I
Mm-hmm.
literally was on my knees in the pulpit crying like a
Wow.
baby because I got to understand that my God, despite my proclivities,
Mm-hmm.
despite the things that I struggled with, my God literally loves me for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
He
It's
literally loves
yeah,
me for me.
it's nothing like it. It's nothing like a person seeing all of your mess, all of your ugliness, and it's like, I still want you.
Oh man, you are
You
in my
still
week
woo
one. That is
me. You
exactly
still
what
woo
I
me.
said.
Yeah.
It's a crazy relationship. It's a really
Yeah.
crazy relationship. No matter how much we try
Mm-hmm.
to push him away, he still comes after us.
Yeah,
And that's a good shepherd.
it
That's a
is.
good lover. That's somebody who loves you beyond anything that you could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm. Or
Um,
fathom.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
So let's talk really quickly. This last point before we get out of here.
sure.
Deliverance. How does a person uh, obtain deliverance from depression, anxiety, or even the myths and the stigma in the church behind those topics?
Well, deliverance, I look at deliverance and healing in two different ways, and the terms are often used interchangeably.
Hmm.
Deliverance to me is simply a rescue.
Yeah.
Get me out of this place.
Hmm. Hmm.
I need a shift. I'm making a decision to shift, and I need some help. I need intervention, right, to
Mm.
get out of this space. But healing is more of a process. And
Hmm.
I liken both of them to if someone were addicted to drugs, let's say a hardcore drug like heroin. And what they would first do is go to a detox facility
Hmm.
to get the drug out of their
Right.
body to be rescued. So that I liken to deliverance. Healing, though, is when they go into the groups and they're attending NA and they're, you know, staying away from people, places, and things, and they're trying to, get another job or rework their purpose. That's healing to me.
Mm.
So I think there has to first be um, confession,
Absolutely.
right? This is where
Absolutely.
I'm at. This
Hmm.
is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Right. And then if there's any sin that is there, depression is not the sin, anxiety is not the sin, but could I have possibly opened some doors
Mm.
to where any kind of oppression could have come in?
Wow.
Let me revisit that, right?
Hmm.
Because when we talk deliverance, we're also looking at um, four different ministry areas or problem areas. You're looking
Hmm.
at oppression coming in through ungodly beliefs,
Yeah.
through soul spirit hurts, through
Mm.
ancestral sins, and then
Mm.
actual demonic oppression.
Wow.
So when someone experiences a trauma, that is unfortunately something that has happened, but attached to that trauma is, how do I now think about myself?
Yeah.
How do I now think about the world? The world no longer feels safe. That's the issue with
Yeah.
trauma. So then,
Yeah.
if the world no longer feels safe, then I am not safe in the world. And now
Mm.
I have to protect myself. That's a lie, right? But
Wow.
we don't recognize
Absolutely.
that as a lie. We just
Yeah.
recognize it. Oh, it's a part of trauma. No, it's a
Yeah.
lie,
It's a
right?
lie.
It's a
Absolutely.
lie. So I think when it comes to deliverance and sustained deliverance and healing, we have to have that confession. We have to be able to acknowledge these are the lies that I have come to believe about
Hmm.
myself, about God, about others, and about my world. And once I map out those lies, then I need to break my agreement with these lies because
Yeah.
strongholds develop from those agreements that have
Hmm.
been established. If
Right.
I think I'm unworthy, then I'm going to
Hmm.
be unworthy and I'm going to be demonically oppressed by self pity or maybe,
Wow.
something else, right? And then breaking those agreements, renouncing that, I even believe this, and then inviting the Holy Spirit, come in and fill this void with your truth about
Hmm.
me, and
Yeah.
about us and our relationship and about this world. And I think that's what deliverance looks like, both psychologically and
Hmm.
spiritually.
That is powerful and amazing. It really, really is. I gotta bring you back. We gotta finish this conversation some point. We
Let
gotta
me
finish
know.
this at some point. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely right. I think that one of the hardest things is being able to say something with your mouth. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you say it with your mouth, it literally becomes reality to you.
Yes, we have
And I
creative
think that
power.
being able to confess
Mm-hmm.
I'm depressed, being
Mm-hmm.
able to confess that I am anxious, being able to confess that I am stuck in something, it
Mm-hmm.
makes it real. And I think that we run away from things that are so real all the time and we try to push
Yes.
them to the side because it's what we've been taught, right? It's just what we talked about in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. This that stigma
Mm-hmm.
of saying, no, you just gotta pray. You just gotta get that devil off your back.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just gotta do, and it's not always that. Sometimes it's really the person that probably is talking to you, telling you
Hmm.
that those are things you got to do. But being able to
Absolutely.
confess and actually face, I'm
Mm-hmm.
dealing with these issues.
And I
That's the
think
first step.
that's, yeah, I think that's important. And I'm gonna slide something in here
Yeah.
that we have to be intentional about. And I have to, I challenge myself to do the same thing, Pastor Ryan, is to not make identity statements out of our
Mm,
conditions. And what I
mm.
mean by that, like what you just said, like I am depressed or I am anxious. We all say that, right? But we've made identity statements out of conditions instead
Oh,
of I feel depressed.
wow.
I
Wow.
feel anxious. I feel stuck because then what happens is now we're taking on an identity of a
Yeah.
condition
That's
without
dope.
even realizing it, right?
It
And
is a
God
difference
is
between
like,
acknowledging and claiming.
yes.
Absolutely.
God is like, I didn't name you depressed. I
Uh-huh.
didn't
Yeah.
name you anxious,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
understand that you may feel these
Right.
ways and feelings ebb and flow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. True.
So
True.
I think
Yeah.
that's important to recognize because we, like I said, I do it too. We all say, I'm depressed. I'm
Hmm.
anxious. I'm this, I'm that. That's an identity statement.
Wow.
So, what are we inviting when we say those identity statements? Are we inviting
Mhm.
the identity of that condition?
Yeah, that's different. That's dope.
Yeah,
I never even considered that when I think about it. I always tell people like, you can acknowledge that something is there without claiming that
yes,
it's yours. And I never
absolutely.
even considered that when we make those statements, we're literally claiming instead of acknowledging. That's really, really
Mhm.
dope. Listen, we have to wrap this up. I just got to bring you back another
This has
time.
been
We just
great.
got to
You
come
let
back
me
and do this
know.
again.
I love this.
This
Love
is
it.
so dope, and I'm so appreciative. Thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today,
you.
guys, in the restoration room. And a big special thank you to my big sis, the Dr. Stacia Wilkins, for sharing her heart and her wisdom today. If you've ever wrestled with mental health and faith, I hope that you leave this conversation knowing that your struggles do not disqualify you from God's love. They certainly do not make you less spiritual. God's desire is for your whole being, your spirit, your mind, and your body. He wants all of it, and He wants to make you whole and healthy. Next week in the Restoration Room, we're moving into episode 4. It is another topic that we've just got to tackle: broken, but not beyond repair. We'll look at how God rebuilds us piece by piece, how even our cracks can become testimonies of His grace. We'll explore the art of kintsugi, the Japanese art of
Ooh.
kintsugi,
Oh,
as
I
a
know that
powerful
well.
spiritual metaphor for restoration. Here, the stories of life are made whole again. And we're going to reflect as well on Isaiah 61 and 3, which is the promise that God gave us: beauty for ashes. Man, I am excited. I can't wait. So be sure to follow us on the Restoration Room podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and we are now on YouTube as well. Don't miss out on what we're doing, and don't miss out on all of the things that we're going to be discussing, okay? Share today's episode with someone who you know needs encouragement or who needs just a little extra help on their healing journey. Until next time, I'm Ryan. We are in the Restoration Room, where you come in broken and you leave rebuilt. Have a good night.
Each episode blends real talk, biblical truth, and restorative insight. We give you the tools to rise above, recover, and walk in freedom.